Hello, I'm Clark Crawford of Clark Crawford Sports, and today we'll be getting into a Week 11 recap along with a Week 12 preview. So let's get started. For those of you who are deciding to spend the Thanksgiving holiday alone or want to avoid family like me to make this video, come join me and I can be your entertainment for the holidays. Now, on to Week 11. As I will get into the most notable things that happen as and I also won't get into every game, but I'll get into the what I think were the most important things that happened to week 11, either you fantasy guru wise or just NFL concerns for your favorite team. So to start, Joe Burrow is knocked out for the season. It does not cement the Bengals' playoff chances, but their hopes is significantly lowered to make the playoffs with the injury to their superstar quarterback. And that same game in which the Ravens beat the Bengals on Thursday night, Mark Andrews might likely be out for the season, probably out for the year with an ankle injury. That'll impact the Ravens, though. The Ravens have a great defense, and Lamar Jackson's playing some of the best football of his career. So if they can continue to feed the run game, and Baltimore has just enough pass catchers with the emergence lately of Odell Beckham Jr. to have 3 straight good games, Baltimore may be able to sustain their winning ways this season, even with the loss of Mark Andrews. So it remains to be seen, but I think Baltimore has a much better chance of sustaining what they've done over the season rather than Cincinnati, who has struggled for much of the year, as many were thinking Cincinnati would be Super Bowl contenders. Moving on to the Lions and the Bears last week played a good game in Detroit as Chicago blew a 26-14 lead after kicking a field goal with 4 minutes and 15 seconds left. But the problem for Chicago is the Lions won the game 31-26. The Lions go on to score 17 points in the final 4:15 to win the game. Justin Fields returned for the Bears, which they were hoping was good news, but as for much of his career, he found another way to lose a football game as the starting QB. The Bears' loss puts them at 3-8, and the Lions move to 8-2. It is beyond me how the Bears have not fired Matt Eberflus, their head coach, but that's another story for another day. Next up on the Week 11 slate was the Chargers-Packers game. It came down to the wire as Green Bay won the game 23-20. Chargers receivers dropped passes which what should have and could have been game-winning touchdowns. Now, Keenan Allen dropped a touchdown pass that turned into a field goal earlier in the game, and most notably on the last drive, Ricky Quentin Johnston, who apparently went to the Marquez Valding Scantling School of Catching, dropped what could have been the game-winning touchdown for the Chargers. With the outcome, both teams sit at 4-6 on the season, on the outside looking into the playoffs, as I don't believe either team will make it into the playoffs. Moving on to the Texans and Cardinals game that was on Sunday, rookie sensation C.J. Stroud threw a career-high 3 interceptions, but the Texans find a way to win with a late defensive stop, 21-16, moving to 6-4 on the year, as they have a chance to take the outright division lead if they beat the first place 7-3 Jacksonville Jaguars in Houston on Sunday for the outright division lead. I think it's going to be a tough competitive game, and you'll find out later who I'm picking to win in that game when I talk about my Week 12 preview. And the biggest upset of the week, it was the New York Giants picking up their 3rd win of the year on the road in Washington, 31-19. Sam Howell, who's been one of the top 10 quarterbacks in the league since Week 5, threw a season-high 3 interceptions while he was outshined by undrafted 25-year-old rookie Tommy DeVito. It was, in my opinion, 2 bad teams squaring off, though it was an upset nonetheless that I think notably needs to be talked about. Now, for that game, it was a game that delivered unexpected results in the end, and in the post-game, while neither team was able to shower as there was a problem with the water system in the stadium, as from my understanding that stadium is what most people would call a dump, the water malfunctioned just like both of the teams' offenses and defenses have much of the regular season. So there's a problem with the water, there's a problem with the teams, there's a problem with the coaching. But hey, I mean, you can't get the water to work, and you can't really get either of these teams to perform either. So hey, the water malfunctioned just like the teams. The Jets were blown out by the Bills 32-6. The hope for Buffalo is Josh Allen played well against a top defense in his first game without previous offensive coordinator who was used as a scapegoat for his turnover problem. Now, is Josh Allen back? If you ask crazy Bills fans who are probably jumping through tables as I speak in this video, they'll probably tell you yes, our Super Bowl hopes are back alive. But the Bills are 6-5, and they still have a tough schedule the rest of the regular season. So the Bills, you got your own problems to deal with. You should probably not be jumping through tables just yet because your regular season and your playoff hopes are still much in doubt. Now for the Jets, the downfall of their season continues as things have gone so poorly that backup QB Zach Wilson has now been benched for a guy named Tim Boyle. Now looking at Tim Boyle's stats, honestly, I have no idea how in the world he's an NFL quarterback, but hey, good for you, Tim Boyle. You're making NFL money. But as things stand, the Black Friday game, which is the first NFL Black Friday game in history, well, it's probably going to be a disaster because you play the Dolphins, and my prediction is the Dolphins are going to blow the Jets out in the first ever Black Friday game in NFL history. So good luck, Jets. Your season is probably going to get worse. You might want to start drinking if you already don't. Last game I want to talk about for Week 11 was the Monday Night Football game between the Eagles and the Chiefs. Me personally, I believe this game was a huge letdown. Kansas City was up 17-7 at the half, and they did not score in the whole second half, which the Eagles won the game 21-17. So the easy way to put it is Kansas City showed up in the first half and dominated. And in the second half, the Eagles showed up and dominated. So it was kind of a barn burner and a crapshoot. If you ask me, I thought this was going to be a much better game. Now, not every NFL game has to be high scoring to be a good game. Let's not get that wrong. But Kansas City, their pass catchers could hardly catch the easy passes from Patrick Mahomes. Most notably, Marquez Valdes-Scantling, who dropped what could have been the game-winning touchdown on a play that I could have caught the ball. I mean, the ball hit him square in the hands, and yet all he had to do was run a couple more yards, and he's in the end zone for the touchdown. I don't know what was so hard about that. Patrick Mahomes threw a dime, and he dropped it. Now, also, Travis Kelce fumbled in that game, which is rare for him, which led to an Eagles touchdown. But it was one of the most sloppy games in the season, in my opinion, because to me, both teams played too conservative. And now I know there were a couple of plays that Kansas City was dropping passes as they had 5 drops on the night. But at the same time, the Eagles were pretty much run the ball, throw a short pass, punt. And Kansas City didn't do too much better. So I'm going to rip on both teams here as it was a boring game to watch. Now, hats off to the Eagles. They moved to 9-1 on the year. With Kansas City's loss, they fall to 7-3. That's about all I got for that game. It was a huge disappointment. Now, on to your Week 12 preview, which begins now. Let's kick it off with the Thanksgiving games. I want to say happy Thanksgiving to everyone. I will be watching football and pretty much ignoring my family. But that's another story. So, we're going to talk about the Thanksgiving games. With the Thursday games, I'll just give my predictions for the games. I'm taking Detroit over Green Bay in the early game. In the afternoon game, Dallas is probably going to blow out Washington. I'll take Dallas. With the night game featuring the 49ers and Seahawks, the Seahawks are incredibly banged up coming into the game as Geno Smith is questionable. Kenneth Walker, starting running back, is unlikely to play. I'm going to take the 49ers to continue to be back on track and beat the Seattle Seahawks to extend their lead in the NFC West. Now, on to the Sunday games of Week 12. I will start with the Texans and Jaguars. I talked about it a little bit earlier in the video, but I want to talk about it more now. First place is on the line in the AFC South. Exciting football this late into the season has not happened since 2019 for the Texans. Now, can the Texans replicate what they did in Jacksonville in Week 3 when they demolished the Jaguars 37-17 on their home turf? Or will the Jaguars get revenge? My biggest key for the game, as I've been saying for weeks now in my videos, is will Trevor Lawrence take the next step to what the Jaguars hope is him becoming a franchise elite quarterback? If he goes out and plays like he did at home versus the Titans in Week 11, where he had a combined total of 4 touchdowns, the Jaguars are probably going to win the game. In my opinion, this has the potential to be the game of the week. I will take the Texans in a close one, 28-24. Next up on the preview slate is 4-6 Tampa Bay at the 5-5 Colts. Now, to most, this may not seem that it's going to be that great of a game, but for me, both of these teams have surprised me in a good way in 2023. I thought both of them are probably going to be fighting for a top 5 pick. But as Tampa Bay, as I said, is 4-6 and the Colts are 5-5, they're two teams that are fighting to stay in the playoff hunt who I wanted to give some recognition to. The Colts are coming off a bye week. They should be well rested, looking for their top 10 run game to run all over the Tampa Bay defense, providing what they hope is win number 6 on the season. Tampa Bay is attempting to bounce back after a tough loss on the road to the 49ers. Now for Tampa Bay, can they rediscover its early season magic as they started 3-1 and keep their playoff hopes alive? It's not a must-win game for Tampa, but it would greatly benefit them to come and steal this game from Indianapolis on the road. Raiders host the Kansas City Chiefs this week. Since firing Josh McDaniels, the Raiders look like an NFL team as opposed to a high school team since the coaching change. So Raiders, I want to welcome you back to the NFL as the Las Vegas Raiders have looked much more like an NFL team in the last 3 weeks. So Antonio Pierce, you deserve some recognition. Now, for the Sunday game against the Chiefs, the Raiders team in the past 3 weeks has had a ton of fight in them. I wanted to highlight this game to give them that recognition for not giving up on the season after a coaching change and just totally tanking their season to get a top 5 pick. With that being said, they have their hands full with the Kansas City Chiefs coming to town. Coming off a loss, I believe the Chiefs are unlikely to lose 2 in a row with Pat Mahomes and Andy Reid in charge of things. I believe the Raiders keep it a close game late, but I think Kansas City pulls away and takes this game against the Las Vegas Raiders on Sunday afternoon. With the win and some help, the Bills can reclaim a playoff spot on Sunday as they travel to Philadelphia. The Eagles come into the game with the best record in the league, as I mentioned earlier, at 9-1. The Bills could certainly benefit largely from a quality win, as upsetting the Eagles on the road would be, per se, a quality win. Now, the Eagles team is not nearly as dominating as the 2022 team, so I give Buffalo a pretty good chance in this game. The Eagles are coming off of a sloppy football game that they probably shouldn't have won in Kansas City on Monday night, but they were able to pull it out. This Eagles team just offensively and a little bit defensively just seems out of sort at times. I can't quite pinpoint what the problem is, but like I mentioned in earlier videos, it might be because they lost their offensive and defensive coordinators to other teams as head coaches. Now, back to the Sunday game, if the same Eagles team that showed up on Monday night against Kansas City shows up on Sunday versus Buffalo, in that case, I believe Philadelphia won't get lucky 2 weeks in a row, and Buffalo will come away with the victory on the Eagles' home turf. So I think it'll be a good game, but which Eagles team shows up is a matter of what's going to determine the game. Ravens picked up a much-needed win versus Cincinnati to stay atop the AFC North and also claimed for the first time this season the top spot in the AFC. An argument can be made that the Ravens might be the best team in the NFL right now. Ravens are favored on the road this week against the Chargers, who are in desperate need of a win to stay in the playoff hunt. For the Chargers side, they've had a ton of injuries along with bad football play on the field, and also poor coaching has derailed the Chargers season to this point. This game is in my opinion, this game has a potential upset written all over it, with Baltimore going across country to play the Chargers, though with the Chargers having one of the worst home field advantages across the league, because other than Philip Rivers, his 10 kids, and his wife, there's about 5 other Charger fans on the planet. So, with that being said, even though the Chargers don't have a great home field, Baltimore might be due for a letdown traveling across the country to play this game. At the same time, I believe Baltimore takes care of business. To wrap up my Week 12 preview, we go to the Monday night game, which is a NFC North division rivalry showdown between the Bears visiting the Vikings. 2 reasons I want to bring this game up. Both have to do with the Vikings, which, number one, Josh Dobbs deserves all the recognition in the NFL. He's been incredible this year. Now, he hasn't been a top 5 quarterback, but Josh Dobbs went from keeping the Arizona Cardinals relevant to being traded to the Minnesota Vikings. And since he's arrived with the Vikings, he's done not great, but he's been solid. He's keeping the Vikings in the playoff hunt, and if there was a most improved player award in the NFL, it should go to Josh Dobbs. So, congrats to Josh Dobbs. I think he's going to get a nice payday in the offseason. Keep up and keep doing what you're doing, because it's nice to see a success story like Josh Dobbs in the NFL. The second reason I want to bring this game up is, will superstar wide receiver Justin Jefferson, arguably the best receiver in the league if you ask me, will he return from injury? Now, we have not seen him since he left Week 5 early with a hamstring injury that landed him on IR against the Kansas City Chiefs. Regardless if Jefferson plays or not, I think the Vikings take care of business versus the Chicago Bears, picking up their 7th win of the season. That's going to do it for another episode of Clark Crawford Sports Talk. Don't forget, if you like this video, to leave a like. And if that's the case, if you haven't already, subscribe to my channel as well. Thank you for watching, and I'll see all of you in the next video.